point, you have a flare up the next day. In that specific disc, joint, muscle, ligament, anything in your back, the tissue tolerance is so low, and it might be embarrassingly low, to where you could deadlift hundreds of pounds, but you have to do holds on the back extension. And a lot of people don't want to come to grips with that. But the thing we got to realize is, like, the time of this whole thing makes healing inevitable. If you are willing to play a long enough game, there's no way your back doesn't become asymptomatic over time for 95% of cases. If we have our strength level right here,
Yeah.
right, and we are at, let's make a graph. So if we have this strength bar here, and then we have our tissue tolerance, which is this line. So this is strength, and this is tissue tolerance. The tricky thing is that, let's say this is a 80 level, and this is a 50 level. Oh. Is that when you go to do your strength training, like, you're pretty strong, as you told me, your strength level will be that you could do maybe 20 or 30 reps on a back extension right here. But the problem is you can, tissue tolerance wise, only handle maybe 15. And essentially what a tissue tolerance is, it's just a term meaning how much work can you put to some tissue and it doesn't negatively get impaired. If you view training as what it really is, training is deliberate micro injuries to muscle and tendons and ligaments. You break it down to build it back up. That's good. That's determining what your recovery is here. The problem is if it gets overwhelming, too much that you can't recover from, it has a negative response. It'll get overly inflamed and it will heal improperly. And then you're going to try to train on top of that again, and then it starts the wrong momentum. And so our job for the first few bits of this program are actually not even trying to get stronger. We're trying to desensitize and increase our tissue tolerance through very gradual exposure until we can, as closely as possible, match our strength level to our tissue tolerance. So I posted on my Instagram story yesterday, or all my stories, showing an RDL I was doing, and I did like 180 pounds, my body weight, for like 25 reps. And I'm not saying that's impressive strength-wise. What's crazy to me is that I finally got it to where my strength and tissue tolerance are pretty much at the same level. In that video, I pushed that set to absolute failure. My legs were shaking, my back is collapsing, and I can go as hard as I want, same on a back extension, and I'll recover now just because these levels are the same. I'm no longer way stronger, which has to do with your nervous system, tendons, and all this other stuff. Like, farmer strength is nervous system. You picking things up, throwing it up. Now you have leg strength, but you never did a squat. Well, that's because strength is a systemic thing too. But if the tissue tolerance is low for your back or your knee or anything, the second you go 60, 70, 80 effort, you will always get worse. And the crazy thing is, every time you overdo it, your tissue tolerance actually gets lower. And every re-injury, you end up at 40, you end up at 30, you go worse and worse. And this discrepancy gets worse and worse. So how do most people go about this is they start lowering their standards of how they lift, meaning, okay, I can't do a back squat, so I'm going to do a front squat. Okay, I can't do a front squat, I'm going to use the leg press. Okay, I can't really use leg press, I'm going to do single leg exercises. You start trying to find ways that you can continue strengthening what's already good enough, your strength, but you're not addressing this decreasing value, which is your tissue tolerance. So it's a loop. And this is something I know very well because I did it. there's a whole lot of people who will post stuff about, and I'm not knocking it, just this is what tricked me and confused me. Here are back friendly exercises if you want to train your legs. How can you keep boosting this side even though you're really on a bad foundation? And the problem is it works in the short term. You might get a little boost, boop, little strength gain. And this likely stays the same. And over time, inevitably, as we age, if you do not train it, not even age, just time, this goes down. So it's like, if you don't do anything for your tissue, the tolerance will always go down. If you're proactive in life, it will always go up. Fast or slow, it'll always go up. So that's the thing that like we got to try our best to see. Flare-ups are a matter of this discrepancy. The first few weeks of this program, we're only worried about this gap closing. Can we get our strength level, tissue tolerance up to our strength? So you're not going to feel exhausted. You're not going to feel like you hit a crazy sweat. This wasn't this wasn't a Orange Theory or your Zumba class or HIIT training that you like. It's not going to be rewarding in the way we're trained to think, but you're giving yourself the best investment that will let you get higher and higher strength as you want. Because the truth is you can only outpace this issue for so long. Eventually your strength gets worse too. And so I think for me, the back extension is the easiest one to see on this. A lot of you guys can do reps, but you have a flare up the next day. And that specific disc, joint, muscle, ligament, anything in your back, the tissue tolerance is so low, and it might be embarrassingly low, to where you could deadlift hundreds of pounds, but you have to do holds on the back extension. And a lot of people don't want to come to grips with that. But the thing we got to realize is like the time of this whole thing makes healing inevitable. If you are willing to play a long enough game, there's no way your back doesn't become asymptomatic over time for 95% of cases. I don't know real percentage, but like nobody does stuff for more than 6 months before calling it quits. And like, I'm not saying try to get out of back pain for 6 months. I mean, keep trying to build the same thing that relates to back pain, the structure, again and again. And that's because studies, evidence are found. You do studies and research for 12 weeks, sometimes 16, sometimes 6 months. They rarely follow people up for years. Physical therapy, when you've gone, if you've had a script or whatever, you usually are there for 12 weeks, maybe 16, maybe more, but eventually you get discharged. And the truth is, if you've been neglecting your back for years and this number is so low, you may need so much patience to get this slowly up, the tissue tolerance, right? And then it's going to dip, and then you have a setback, and then a little bit more, and it dips, and you get sick, and you have a kid, and it's worse, and then you keep trying, and then you make some stalled progress, you find a new variation, you troubleshoot, you send form videos, you get a little more, dip, and then you whatever, have another kid, go to do something stressful, and then you're still going. But the fact is, life is long, and we can eventually put more and more in our favor till this matches. Everybody just wants the elevator shot, though. They want to just like fix me, boom, 12 weeks, I'm ready to lift heavy. And I understand it. I did the same. So yeah, everyone's case is individual. I think everyone has to understand this concept, though, of like the issue oftentimes is the tissue. Nerve pain can change things a little bit. Imbalances change things a little bit. But if you have a sensitive back, we're not even trying to really get it stronger. We're trying to desensitize it. And that's through what they call graded exposure in physical therapy, which is just gentle introduction. Your body freaks out less and less until you can push harder. And so I don't know if hopefully everyone could see what I've been drawing here this whole time. But For me, this stuff seems like, oh, too obvious to show, so I normally don't. But when I think about it, it's not about knowing, it's about truly seeing yourself in this equation. Because I think we all know if I pushed it too hard, I pushed it too hard. I need to be patient. But sometimes we can't see our long-term habits or our decisions that were made historically. For me, I've gone against this graph for 4 major injuries before. Shin splints that led to stress fractures. I broke my legs slowly over time because I didn't want to admit this fact. And I just kept trying to sprint and jump, never did a tib raise. And then the back, same thing. Trap bar deadlift, single leg work, zero direct back training. So when people tell you, how should I say this? I get DMs from some members, and you guys will sometimes send me like a famous trainer or somebody making a reel on a training tip or instruction that directly contradicts what I say. Because out of confusion, they'll say, "Why does this guy say don't round your back?" And he has millions of followers. What are your thoughts? Or tons of people will comment me in there and try to get a debate. One, I'm never gonna respond. I'm never gonna debate. I'm not here to try to argue with people that haven't had a back injury about what it's like having a back injury. I don't care. That's not what I'm in this for. But two, the thing is that gets lost is they're trying to help you keep staying in the game, which is a cool thing. Keep training. And eventually, if you stop re-injuring your back, that will let this get better. If you brace well and you learn how to stiffen your core and how to move properly and isometrically train your back, then without re-injury, this will naturally go up. They don't realize use it or lose it doesn't care. This is a law of nature everywhere. This is not my opinion. Any tissue in the body that you don't maximally use through a range deliberately is slowly going down, which is why people say that back pain is correlated with age. It's not. It's not actually caused by age. It's caused by time of not using your back and re-injuries. And yes, age, and what age is literally slowing biological functions. It may slow down how fast things heal. It may slightly change the mechanisms of healing in terms of how much synovial fluid, how much nutrients get to joints, but it doesn't matter. Like if you're 80 years old, you get a cut on your hand, it still heals because you still heal even at 80. If you're alive, you're actively healing. Whether or not it slows down or not doesn't matter. The truth is, it's not age that brought your tissue tolerance down as much as we think. It's not using the back over time. And so obviously it's semantics. We could argue whatever about age, but the point is that we can be proactive at any age and any situation and find improvements up this. If you're just joining, I did this whole breakdown of strength versus tissue tolerance, which is how sensitive our muscles, joints, backs are. So yeah, if you ever get confused seeing online or people that and I'm really not trying to demonize it or call shots on people, but if there's confusion about why do people say to not use your back, it's because they're trying to keep you training and they don't necessarily see the use it or lose it fact of the back. For some reason, we understand it with elbows, knees, joint, or muscles, but we think of the back as something to preserve, not something to build. We never hear someone say, I'm trying to get the strongest back. You just hear advice, don't hurt your back, what not to do. But it's just because no one's done it. And I would have never did it either had I been left another choice. My back just was effed and I couldn't do nothing anymore. And so I stumbled upon this like lived experience that, oh shoot, our low backs can get really strong. And nothing bad's happening. In fact, it's actually making me stronger on everything. And so I know I'm so repetitive saying play the long game. I know that this style of coaching since I'm trying to give you form coaching on every session, it makes you feel like every session you should see improvement or it should feel better. But the truth is, I'm just trying to set you guys up and teach you what to do for the next year or two and then maintain. Some of you guys may feel better in a week, maybe 3 weeks. I hope 6 weeks. That's what we said for the breakthrough time period. But the truth is, if you do it for 6 weeks and stop, you're going to have back pain again. And so this is really more of a educational program than a fitness coaching program. You get any online coach for normal goals, and they will have you drop 10 pounds in 10 weeks because that's possible. They'll get you to gain 5-10 pounds of muscle in a month or 2 or 3 months, 4 months, because that's very possible. Remodeling a back takes a long time. Getting out of pain doesn't need to take a super long time. But it would be it'd just be such a lie if I tried to say that you're going to be fixed in some short period. So it's a tough thing because I'm fighting. We're like so used to expecting the normal fitness, like drop weight in this time, gain muscle this time. But I'm really just trying to make you guys more self-reliant and know what to do. And even if you're in this program for a month, 2 months, you could be here for a year until your back's fixed. I don't really care, but I just hope in the time that you're here that you don't only learn these concepts, but you feel it. Like you get to do it and have those aha moments of, that's why my back's bad. It makes sense now. And I'm not going to forget this. And I'm going to keep training these principles. So all the little divots, like I was showing here, like Monday, good session. Tuesday, good session. Friday, feels bad. Monday, good session. Wednesday, bad. Friday, good session. Monday, good session. Tuesday, good session. Bad. When you really like zoom out, the truth is this 2 weeks of training right here, in the reality, your back journey is going to be this. So this 2 weeks, maybe even longer. This 2 weeks, this is why I don't get worried when we have a bad week or two. It truly doesn't matter in the long scheme. It's going to be divots, but if you're working over time, you are not degrading your back. You are doing so much of an investment long term. The tough thing is that each day of pain is very real. Like one day of pain can make you want to end it all. I know that. So the pain can be like so heavy day to day. So just, remember that. Realize this is why we're chasing the perfect rep, why we're trying to be really careful with the form, because one day of bad form doesn't matter, but 3 years of bad form can kind of like change where the results go. And so just keep getting in tune with your body, keep understanding the daily fluctuations are just a part of this. It's a mental game. Have trust that if you do the right things of listening to how you feel, but not buying into it with so much fear and regulating due to the tissue tolerance, going for pain-free reps, going for more range of motion, structural balance, these things will change your long-term trajectory. And this is why I say now, my bad days now that I'm here, I could have a really bad day right here, hurt my back squatting really bad. It is still way better than my good days back here. So it's all about this foundation building, this long-term change. The back has dozens of joints. It has hundreds of muscles. It has thousands of, literally millions of neurons. So many nerves that could feel bad. Nerve cells. There's so much that needs a lot of time. So I hope that's encouraging and not discouraging. And I hope it's a reframing that lets you feel like any change is possible if you aim long enough. And it sounds delusional because it is, but trust me, if you guys met me 3 years ago, you wouldn't be my client. You'd be like, this dude is so injured with so many different things. what the hell does he know about training? Like, you wouldn't have been my client. And I only got to where I'm at. It's not perfect, but it's night and day because of this sort of faith and applied focus. So that's the end of my TED Talk rant.